We live?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Carolina Packers podcast. A little bit late, but still before the bulk of the games. We're going to do our Week 9 power rankings of the NFL teams. This one's going to be a little bit shorter than our Week 8, I think. A little less movement. We did some picks for games prior. And I would say that this week's games have largely fallen within the bounds of expectations for the most part. Finally. Yeah, after week 7 or week 8 or whatever. Yeah, it was really weird after week.
A lot of these games this year have been bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's teams that obviously that we expect and everything to be good, but then other games and teams that have been good in the past just haven't been living up to their standards.
And I think that the biggest thing is there's been so much movement, and especially with the trade deadline coming and going, it's hard to know which teams are legit, which teams are just kind of struggling from a hangover but have the talent to explode into the playoffs. There's a couple teams that I would be surprised if we don't see some winning streaks, but
we'll see.
We'll see.
Let's dive into
it.
So this is the previous, obviously picking up from the last power rankings of this past week. Let's start from the bottom and go up like we did last time. Obviously, there's teams that aren't going to really move that much, and then teams that might do a little bit of shuffling, but not too bad. So obviously, Lions stay. Yeah.
Stay.
Texans stay. I mean, this is Saturday.
We put them at evening. D. They haven't won.
So this is after the Thursday game. So this is after the.
And the Lions lost their best. One of their best offensive pieces. So
they're not doing anything. Yep. Obviously, Texans just lost to the Eagles. Not a big surprise. Obviously, Pierce is looking great, but again, can't really move him. Bears are 3-5. And we discussed this a little bit beforehand. They play the Dolphins this week.
Yep.
And we were discussing about moving them up because they're 3-5. But
made a trade for Chase Claypool.
Exactly, made the trade.
Surprised me in a big way because that to me indicates that they are very much invested in Justin Fields now as a passer.
And they're trying to give him weapons. They're trying to give him a chance, which is obviously good for him and the team. But we discussed it, and I think we're not going to move them quite yet because most likely they're going to lose to the Dolphins. So they're going to be 3-6. And again,
we'll see how he integrates with the team. If Fields has some really prominent development, we'll have to start.
We'll have to move him up and everything. But as of now,
it's hard.
High D, low C, but we're just going to keep them where they are now.
Yep.
Obviously, they just beat the Patriots, so again.
A week from Thursday.
Yeah, we're gonna be okay with that. Panthers, I'll let you talk about the Panthers here.
Yeah, the Panthers are they're a weird one to pin down. They feasibly, we were talking about, could have 4 wins essentially easily because they've had some tough breaks and really the offense has been so bad for most of the season. The change at quarterback, while it hasn't been maybe the change that the Seahawks are seeing, where you reach in and find Geno Smith as suddenly this excellent quarterback, it's been good enough. It's been pedestrian, average. It was disappointing. The Panthers, they trade away Christian McCaffrey and then beat the Bucs badly. And then, frankly, the last game was theirs to lose, and on the dumbest penalty of all time, they miss then the extra point. They go into overtime, miss the field goal. And so while there's a part of me as a fan that wants to say, yeah, put them at C, they've got the potential, they don't have the record to reflect it. And while they have, I think, a case to be made, and as bizarre as it is, they're still in the playoff contention because easily they're in the worst division in the NFL. I think until we see another win that means something, you gotta keep them at
and that's the bad thing is because they do play the Bengals this week. So
if they beat the Bengals, that will be a statement. But right now,
you can't do anything.
You kind of have to anticipate they'll lose to the Bengals. I imagine that the word in the know, in the people that are making decisions would be, we're tanking right now.
Yeah.
I don't know why it doesn't look like we're tanking. Maybe we're not tanking.
Maybe.
I don't know. But
the thing is now that you look at the team, you've got more draft picks because of Christian McCaffrey. Would you be tanking? I think that's the way to go. Is you want to tank, get one of them quarterbacks.
Yep.
And that's
and
really
then
the missing piece.
Be ready to go. You've got a defense kind of in place. You got some weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Get the missing pieces next year. You're good.
You
Tough to tell though if that's the universal understanding.
You kept your cornerstone on your defense. You kept Brian Burns. Obviously, you kept Moore, which again, yes, cost you the game this past week, but again,
tied it.
Amazing. Exactly.
So,
was the one that tied it, got open and everything. So it's a very interesting situation. But let's move on to the Raiders. I think we got to drop.
I think the Raiders got to drop. They are probably the biggest disappointment, or one of them. I won't say the biggest, but one of them.
I mean, I guess Buccaneers, Packers could be as well, but they're definitely
Yep.
big disappointments.
With the acquisitions that they were making in the offseason to be this bad, to get shut out 24-0 by the Saints.
Yeah, that's what hurts the most.
Yep. So I think you got to move them to D. They're playing terribly.
Same with the Steelers, I think. I think the Steelers have to be moved down again.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, I think it's just not.
They have the defense, but they're struggling on offense, and trading away Claypool, I think.
Which, again, I think was a great trade for them. I do.
But as an indicator on where the season is
where
heading,
the season's going, they're done.
They're
But again,
bombing.
for them themselves as a team, you're looking at Chase Claypool that's really, again, probably at this point better than or around George Pickens' skill set or skill level, but you're getting a second-round pick from the Bears that, again, most likely isn't going to be that good. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at a high second-round pick for a probably the third best wide receiver going forward on your team.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a very valuable trade that they made, and I think I applaud them for that. Obviously, the Packers tried to trade for him, but that's its own story. Broncos, I think stay. They beat the Jaguars, but again, it was London.
And the Jaguars are a bad team.
Yeah. I think same with Falcons. We're keeping them here.
Stay again. Like they had a win, but that was Carolina's game to lose.
Yeah, that's what we're discussing.
And so it's just they're 4-4 in a terrible division. Not really quality wins. So C, I think.
And if they win this weekend, we can definitely obviously talk about the movement to B, especially if they're going to win and obviously they're the leading in the division. They're at least probably going to be up to B at the end of the year. Whoever's going to win in that division is most likely going to be B. But at this point, still anybody's division. We can't really move anybody up.
Hard to know what's a fluke and what's not.
Exactly. All right, Washington.
We talked about Washington.
This is a question marker here for me. Still.
It is. And
4-4.
Yep.
They still have. I mean, obviously
a
good quarterback, a tight win. But again, they have a good quarterback, but he's not one you look at and be like, wow, he's generational. He's amazing. They have a really obviously great defensive line. Obviously, they got good weapons in McLaurin, Samuel.
I think that's the big thing. Is the question is, how much is the quarterback and how much is they have great wide receivers?
Great weapons, just amazing weapons.
Now their run game.
They have Robinson and they have Antonio Gibson. So they have really good. Like I said, they have really good weapons, but it's one of those things where you look at it and say, okay, this team is not supposed to be that good, but they're playing well.
Yeah, Ron Rivera has done a good job coaching them into at least they're a tough kind of scrappy unit.
Yeah.
Does that make them
who they play next week?
Quality?
And that's the thing. It's like you said. Is it B quality? Is it just good wins? Building their confidence.
They play the Eagles and they play the Vikings next week and then the Eagles. And so that's
what we were talking about.
That's the big thing is I really think that's 2 losses.
Yeah.
On the horizon.
And so now you're talking about 4 and 6 C.
I think
because of the division that they're in, you have to keep them at C. I don't think you can move them that much.
If they win one of those games,
yeah, I should say automatically up to B.
But right now,
most likely what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the Colts, and we'll get to the Colts, but I don't think that they beat them by 1. I don't think that's enough to move them.
Saints.
The Saints.
Huge win.
Huge
again,
win.
But against the D-rated team.
That we just moved down to.
This is true.
It was a shutout. I think the Saints moving Andy Dalton to the starting quarterback has proven to be a good move.
What is their record?
Let me look.
Because it's one of those teams where it's like
they're 3-5. So Alvin Kamara finally had a huge
Thank
game.
you. My fantasy team really lucked out on that one.
He had a huge game. The Saints, the problem is that they don't have any super quality wins, right?
Yeah.
Their best win is over the Seahawks by 7. They've lost to the Cardinals, the Bengals, the Vikings, the Panthers, the Buccaneers.
They lost to the Panthers?
They lost to the Panthers. It's tough to know what to make.
I think we
of
keep
a team
them
like that. I think you keep them at C.
I think we're keeping.
They play the Ravens and then the Steelers, so we'll see what they do in the coming weeks. They look like they're starting to put together some kind of team hegemony, but
I think they're a great team. Obviously, I think their offense is going to drastically improve.
Olave has been
but
great.
I will also add, Michael Thomas is out for the year now, officially,
and that is not good for them.
I think you keep him here. Obviously, Chris Olave is amazing, but having another weapon would have helped them a lot.
Yep.
Jaguars, I don't think we're about to talk about too much with them. They just lost to the Broncos. I don't think you move them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you move them down. I think it just was a, London. Just, Browns just beat the Bengals.
Yep. We were looking at that. I think the Browns are now 3-5.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But the Bengals is their only
good win.
Kind of good win.
And again, Bengals are, lost Jamar Chase for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think C is still good for them.
I think, the Browns are still probably C. We were talking about, too, how the Browns, they have upside. They have a lot of good pieces.
Oh, definitely.
But they're one of those things that really in the NFL, when you get professionals on teams, you're always going to have upsets. You never know when a team can win a game.
Yeah.
All these teams could potentially win.
Agreed.
Except for maybe like the Lions.
Watch them win this week.
Yeah. and so I think it comes down. Well, I mean they have a win. So
they do.
There's no team with no win.
Yeah.
So
which is good.
With that being said, one win, tough to be able to say like they've got it to move them up to B.
Yeah.
I think keep them at C.
Okay. I think we can talk about the Packers and the Broncos or the Buccaneers in the same sentence.
Yeah.
I think we discussed this earlier. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, they're 3-5, but we can't be too dramatic about moving them. And I think their recent, the Packers can go on a run and the Buccaneers can go on a run just because of how good their quarterbacks are. So I don't want to move them down too early because 3-5 isn't terrible.
No.
If they're 2-6, and again 3-5 again, this week is such a pivotal week because 3-6 is really you're looking at a bad situation.
Yeah.
Or 4-5, you're like, okay, especially in how weak the NFC is, you're looking at a different situation. So I think we discussed this. Packers just lost to the Bills. Again, Bills crushed them in the first half, but then the Packers really started performing very well in the second half and really surprised me. Defense really stepped up, obviously only allowing 3 points in the second half against a very strong Bills team. And then, of course, the Packers, I'm pretty sure, scored 10 points in the second half. So it's one of those things where it's like we played really well in the second half, outplayed them, but we just have to have a complete game. And it's obviously hard to have a complete game against that team. And that's why I think we're going to wait. We played the Lions this week. Mm-hmm. Should be 4-5 then. Should be.
If it's a loss.
100% bump them down easily. But again, if they win though, I'm not bumping them up to A. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep them here. This is
it's a
not going to
win.
move. Yeah. The only reason to move is if they lose. and that's when they get bumped down to C. But if they win again, it's a 4-5 against a not really great win. Keep them where they are. And again, with the Buccaneers, we'll do the same. Most likely, if they lose, we'll bump them down 3-6. It's very tough, but 4-5, keep them where they are. Seahawks, I'd say stay again.
Yeah, the Seahawks. We were looking at this. They're 5-3. They have a good record. Geno Smith is playing well.
Playing well, yeah.
It's hard to tell though if they have any really good wins.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's what B is for, though. I think B is like in that they have a good record, right?
I think if they keep winning though over these next couple of weeks, we'll move them to A, right? I think
tough.
At some point, if they win, if they're sitting there because they're 5-3 right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If they're like 8-3, you gotta move them to A.
But the thing is like I feel like 5-3 for I don't know. It's tough to see Seahawks there because DK Metcalf is hurt as well or battling injury or whatever.
Yep.
Tyler Lockett obviously is having a resurgence with Geno Smith or whatever, and it's just like it's a good team, but at some point it's like the next two teams with the Jets and New York, both New York's teams I should say. It's like they're there, but you look at the roster and you're thinking, yeah, but they're gonna lose. They're gonna at some point lose. Well, and that's why they're B, I feel like, is because it's like.
But if they keep winning, I'll have to change my perception.
That's true. I agree with that.
But right now, I think they stay at B.
I agree.
And we'll see if they have, like, they play the Cardinals again coming up. If they beat the Cardinals again, gotta move them up. And then we get to the Giants. We had a really good comment on our last video from someone that I assume is a Giants fan. And we really appreciate comments like that.
Yeah, definitely.
We get them occasionally from someone that, you know, is a diligent fan that as much as we watch football or sports and try to keep up with it, we're not going to always be as perceptive on the way a season is going or a team is constructed. And so the comment was on Daniel Jones and that he's quietly having a much better season.
And I think it's a fair point. I mean, you're talking about someone that isn't turning the ball over. And that's what a lot of these teams that have great defenses, great running games, you know, all these things where obviously the Giants don't have the best passing attack. They don't have the best, you know.
They don't have a clear number
one. Obviously, they lost Evan Ingram. Their team is just really built for running, really good defense, great coaching, obviously, we've seen.
Yep.
And again, Daniel Jones can run. And so that's what I think they're utilizing him in the running game, you know.
And he's been much more efficient.
That's the big thing.
Yes.
That's the big thing because you're looking at them and saying, okay, you know, they don't really have the best offense, like weapons or whatever on the outside, but they're still winning. It's because Daniel Jones is being smart with the football.
Yep.
You know, not turning it over, playing consistently, and that's really all you ask for a lot of these teams. Like, you know, you have these upper echelon teams that maybe like the Vikings that have a solid quarterback, but just have a great team around them.
Right. That
really, again, same with a lot of it's really about the B teams, especially like the 49ers. Obviously, Jimmy G is proven winner, but the team around him is just so good. It's like you really just don't want him to mess it up. And so it's a lot of those teams where it's like, okay, great team, just take care of the ball. Whoever the quarterback is, take care of the ball, hand it off, you know, make smart reads, make the easy reads, and just move the ball down. But that's, I mean, again, nothing taking away from Daniel Jones, but we have not seen this at all in his career, really. Him playing this well. And I think, like we were saying, and like the comment said, it's just really just about being maybe even maturing, but just making smart decisions with the ball.
Yeah, the decision making has improved a lot. I remember we put them at B because it was kind of a question of, is this team for real? They were 6-1. They just lost this last week to the Seahawks. Hard to know what that means because, again, the Seahawks are hard to pin down. I think the Giants stay. And we just keep we just keep watching, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Just see. And if they have a really quality win in they don't play this week, but maybe 2 weeks from now, if they have a really good win, we'll reconsider.
So the Jets. So both New York teams lost this week.
Yeah, Jets lost to the Patriots by 5.
But again, I think you keep them.
5-3 now. I think you
keep them there.
Yep.
5-3. I think the Jets and the Seahawks are very similar. Obviously, same records.
Yep.
But I think same kind of tiers team.
Tough to pin down. They're not bad this season by any means. Not. It's just tough to tell how good they are.
What about the Tennessee Titans? Keep
Titans. Yeah, they beat the Texans by a touchdown. Yeah. That's not a huge win.
Patriots.
Same kind of thing. I remember when we put this together, they were playing because it was a week from last Thursday, the week 8.
Oh yeah.
They lost to the Bears that night.
And we didn't know that they were going to lose to the Bears.
Right. So that was a bad loss, but they just beat the Jets, who were 5-2 going in.
So you can't.
They're 4-4. They're just a classic average team. The Colts.
Yeah.
The Colts are a shame because for a couple of years they felt like they had put together. Yeah, they were just almost there, and they've tried a bunch of things out. They, I believe, have now benched Matt Ryan.
Like it's been really weird, obviously, but
they're just trying.
From what I've seen, it's like bench / he's injured, kind of. Okay, going back and forth. Trade Nyheim Hines, which is a big trade. Again, Deion Jackson, the 1 week he started was phenomenal.
Yep.
Was really phenomenal. He's going to start again this week, and again, that's another thing. Really, it's been Jonathan Taylor hasn't shown up this year, either whether that be the offensive line or just because of his uses last year and just kind of getting tired or whatever. But he's just kind of been mediocre for his standards, especially, but also just been in and out of the lineup with injuries, and so obviously they're 3-4-1.
Has he been really mediocre? Let me take a look.
Yeah, take a look. But yeah, they're 3-4-1. Their defense isn't as good as what we remember them as being. What is this? Is he looking good or kind of?
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's also mostly like I don't remember the saying per se, but it's like
he has 462 yards.
What's he averaging per carry?
4.3. So
that's what you want to be, is around 4 yards a carry.
But
he's in and out of the lineup.
1 touchdown.
Yeah.
So that is not very good. 1 touchdown, 2 lost fumbles.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So it's like for his standards, 4 yards a carry is good, but he's not getting in the end zone. He's, again, the offensive line isn't as good. It's not always his fault, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just not, the team itself is just not performing where they need to be. So were you thinking moving them down to C or keeping them there from now? Because they're 3-4, so they're pretty mediocre.
I think move them down.
Move them down to C. Yeah. I think they're the same kind of level as the Browns. I think them and the Browns are pretty similar.
Yep.
And maybe even the Saints. Mm-hmm. Chargers, they had a bye.
Chargers had a bye, so can't
move them at all. I really like San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of San Francisco. I think the Christian McCaffrey trade obviously is amazing.
Yeah, we had talked about, seems like it would go well, but you don't know till he plays. And it was, I'm sure, way better than even the 49ers
could have imagined. Especially because they really, like we were even discussing earlier, like a year or two ago, trading for Christian McCaffrey would cost at least a first-round pick, maybe 2. And they traded him not even for a first-round pick. Yeah, they had a second-round pick. But giving up that for the weapon, again, injuries aside, the weapon that he is ridiculous.
He had 3 total touchdowns.
And that's all you have to say.
Yeah.
And so I think, obviously, with the team that is, Debo has been injured, but I think he's going to be back. I think you got to move him up to A.
I think they're an A team. I mean, they've been up and down, some weird wins, some weird losses. But if they can stay healthy, they've got Christian McCaffrey. They are a great team.
100%.
So, and that's kind of exciting. I'm not like a 49ers fan, but they're an exciting team.
Yeah, so definitely. Oh yeah, I was gonna say
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
So in the division now, LA and the Cardinals. So LA, I think we have to move down.
I think we have to move both teams down.
I think you do. LA, but LA does play.
I think you move LA down till they prove otherwise at this point.
Because I think last video we moved the Cardinals up too, because of how they performed on like Thursday night. Like DeAndre Hopkins was back.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Or maybe we just didn't move him.
So
But
they beat the Saints pretty soundly. They lost to the Vikings.
Oh yeah, the Cardinals
by 8. Yep.
But the Vikings are also a really good team.
They're a good team.
Who do they play next?
The Seahawks.
That's a good. I think we leave them.
Leave them.
I think you move down.
You got to move the Rams,
down.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the Cardinals' record?
3-5.
Oh yeah, you got to move down.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals and the Rams, like we had talked when DeAndre Hopkins came back and was so good. And honestly, against the Vikings, he was amazing.
Yeah, but again,
160 yards.
it's a thing where if their record was 4-4, I would keep them at A. But 3-5, you can't be an A team and be 3-5.
No, they have to be able to get a good win.
And again,
it's just like
I think they're a great team, but again, you have to finish those games. Beat the Vikings, easily stayed up there, obviously.
Yep.
But you have to get that solid. Okay, DeAndre Hopkins was back. I was expecting them to honestly pretty close to even beating the Vikings.
It's hard to say you're an A team if you only beat the people you're supposed to beat.
Exactly.
And so, until they show otherwise.
Vikings, we had a discussion about pushing them up to S.
Yeah.
They just traded for Hawkinson.
And they're 6-1.
They're 6-1.
The way they're playing, I think you move them to S. I really do.
As hard as it for me to do this move, I think it must happen. 6-1. Only lost
defense.
2 was the Eagles.
Yep.
The undefeated A Eagles.
And they have just been rolling. You add a weapon. Like, tight end was their weak spot, right? And now they have a great tight end. Yeah. I really think.
And Kirk Cousins is playing really well.
Yep.
And
Dalvin Cook is still playing
Dalvin Cook
well.
is solid. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's leave his zone. Adam Thielen's playing well. Defense is playing really well. Offensive line playing well. I think you have to keep them there until they prove you otherwise.
Yep. They're just they're one of the most solid teams in the NFL.
They have a very interesting game this coming week against the Commanders, which will say a lot about both teams, honestly. Commanders and the Vikings. But we'll have to see. I think the Ravens are an A team still. I think they're a really, really solid team. Again, I think all of these teams, obviously the S tier teams are really, really good. But these A teams, I don't think, like, obviously we're going to talk about the Bengals, but they're just such explosive offenses, these 3 teams. With actually all 4 of these teams. The 49ers, the Ravens, the Dolphins, and Kansas City all have incredible offenses with incredible weapons around everybody. So I think you keep them there and just enjoy. Obviously, the Bengals obviously have great weapons on the offense, but losing Jamar Chase and losing to the Browns.
And not a close loss to the Browns.
No. Just a beatdown, really.
Yep.
Do we move them down?
I think we do.
Who do they play this week? I mean, I think I'll move them down. I think that's true.
I think.
What's their record?
4-4, but their only good win is the Dolphins and then maybe the Jets.
Yeah, but we don't know anything about the Jets.
They beat the Falcons and the Saints, and lost to the Browns, Cowboys, Steelers, and Ravens. It's just a mixed bag, and I think with a mixed bag, they play the Panthers. They should beat the Panthers, right?
Yeah.
But if they lose to the Panthers, that
are we doing too much?
B.
I think we keep them at A, low end A, because they're most likely going to beat the Panthers. So 5-4. I don't want to do too much of a jerk reaction to that.
Okay.
Because they're 4-4. They're a really good team.
Okay.
You know.
Keep them at A.
I think keep me at low end of A. I just don't want to move them down, then move them back up after this week.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Keep them at A. That's fine.
And then, of course, I think you don't move anything about S.
Yep. All got a good win.
All got good wins. All great teams.
Yep.
Obviously, we're doing this after the Thursday night game.
Eagles beat the Texans.
Eagles beat the Texans again.
Learned nothing really.
But again,
from that.
Texans played really well against them. It was a closer game than I think a lot of people expected.
In that the Texans got 17 points or whatever.
It was a close game until the end, I should say. The Eagles started pulling away. Again, we talked about the Bills game. Bills are a great team. I don't think you really hold anything on that second half against the Packers. I think the Packers are still trying to figure out their team. I think the Bills kind of let off the gas a little bit just because, they were up multiple scores. Like, I think they kind of were just like, okay, let's not get hurt. Let's not do anything stupid or anything.
Yep, Cowboys blew out the Bears.
Yeah, I don't think you don't move anybody like that. Yep. But I mean, that's two NFC East teams right there. That's crazy to see.
Yeah, and we'll see with the Cowboys at the Packers.
Cowboys. Week. Oh, well, I guess it's next week.
Oh.
Yeah, so we play the Packers. I think the Cowboys might have a bye this week.
Oh.
That might be what it is. So the Packers play. That's another big game. Packers. If the Packers can beat both teams, that's obviously a huge win. But it has to start with the Lions first.
Yeah. You
have to beat the Lions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's solid. I think that's a good.
Not too much movement.
Not too much movement.
Some of the teams that we were on the fence about, we got a little bit more definition, and I think that's. I think it's a good list.
Yeah, I think obviously we'll talk about
shaking out a little bit more. Maybe we end up moving, the Panthers if they win or what. But
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.